Okay, so this is the home page or the landing page for the AODS 156 case management course. And what I'm going to do here is kind of go through the course. I'm going to show you right now. You're looking at at my view, right, the educator's view, um, and I'm going to show you what it looks like from your end in just a minute. But well, actually, let me change it to student view now. So I'm going to change it to student view. So this is what it will look like when you log in. And so just to kind of orient you to what we have here. So hopefully you can see my cursor moving around. I like to highlight. So over here on the, excuse me, on the left-hand side is are links that you can jump to in different parts of this course. So home is going to always take you here. So this is home. Syllabus is going to take you to a page that talks about the syllabus, talks about the advisory, course format. This is basically a highlight of the paper syllabus that I sent you and is also posted. But this is just a highlight. But one of the things that I really like about this particular page, for those that may not be aware, you go all the way to the bottom, it actually begins to list all your assignments. This is everything we're going to be doing that I've published so far. And you can see in pretty much the correct order their due dates. Some things are out of order, and I've tried to fix that. I don't know why it does this, but it does. So like, well, now on here, so far, everything looks like it's in the right order. So maybe I did fix it. It was giving me fits the other day and they would not go in the correct order. But the other thing I want to show you is, in case you didn't know about this, not only can you go to the bottom of that page, but you can also go over here to your calendar. And in your calendar, you can choose, if you have more than one class, you can actually highlight the different classes that you're in, and it will color code. You'll notice different classes have different colors on the main screen. So AODS 156 this semester is green. So it's going to highlight on the calendar everything that is due. So this week, you have not only your chapter 1 reading, but you also have a reading on a page that's called Being Successful in this course that I put up. So make sure you read that. The chapter 1 activities and the student success survey. So that's what's due at the end of this week. And then each week you'll see that there is, you pretty much have something due almost every single week. So I'll just tell you that, right? So next week you're going to be learning about burp notes. I'm going to do a lecture on burp notes. We're going to do a little bit of in-class practice. The following week, we're going to continue with chapter 14, do a little bit of more burp note practice, but then you're also going to have a burp note assignment that is due that week. And I will go over that with you and again, so you'll be prepared for it. And on the first burp note, I'll just tell you I'm pretty lenient in my grading because it helps me see where you're at, gives me a baseline. I give lots of feedback on notes that I hope will be very helpful as you're learning. And then with each successive note, I've noticed that students get better and better and better. And but that's the calendar. And so you can always check there. We're going to go back to the dashboard. Oops. Back to courses, AODS 156. So you can get to your syllabus that way. You can also get to modules one of two ways. You can get to modules through this link, or down here at the very bottom where it says learner modules, you can click there. It doesn't matter. I have them set so you can go to either one. So if we go to modules, first I want to show you guys a trick. Sometimes students go, oh, I never knew that, and that's really helpful. You see there's a lot of stuff here, right? A lot. By the end of the semester, to get to the later weeks, you're going to be scrolling through all of this stuff. So what I recommend students do, and what I like to do, even with when I'm doing work in there, is hit collapse all, which is over here on the upper right-hand side. If you hit collapse all, it will collapse all of those and make them just so that it shows the title. And then you can go to whichever one you want. All right. So that's just a little trick. You might have already known it. Sometimes students don't know that, so I like to throw that in there. So here's your modules. And the way I have it set up is, syllabus is up at the top, so you always have access to that. A Zoom class lecture. Oh, well, let me do this. So here's the syllabus, and here's that reading, being successful in case management. So this is kind of like what I want you to review this week as well, right? Talks about like some helpful hints and things like that. So as you can see, it's a short read, but I will tell you, the I can do it later thinking may not be helpful. So please try to keep up with your work. I'm going to go back home. Modules. I just went back to modules. And here's your syllabus. Now remember, I've already told you that I'm going to update this because I've changed this writing assignment. For those that may not have noticed, this is all X'd out because I made a very last minute change to your first paper. So instead of doing a research paper on the trans-theoretical model of change, I decided that we would practice using the ASAM, and then you'll write a paper based on that practice. So I have to redo that. That's my project for this weekend, and then I will update the syllabus and let you guys know that it's updated and send it back out. Syllabus also has a calendar at the very end of what we're going to be working on each week, where the focus is going to be. Another thing I want to focus on is here. Let me see if I can make this bigger. There we go. I think that's a little bit bigger. So this gives a basic breakdown of what your grade is going to look like this semester based on the assignments. So, and here's what I say. A point is a point is a point is a point. So even if you're having a trouble, let's say you email me and say, Richard, I just can't turn this in on time. I understand there might be a penalty. Can I, blah, blah, blah. Let's work something out. And even if you get half points, it's better than a 0. Every point you get takes you closer to this 200, right? And, it could be a couple of points. It might be the difference between a D, which means you'll have to repeat this course, or a C, which means you can move on, right? So, so I do want to let you guys know that you have to get a C or better in this course in order to receive credit for the certificate or the degree. So, so just let me know what's up. Work with me. I'll work with you as best I can. But try to turn in everything that you can. So a point is a point is a point. All right. Any questions on that part? So if you're here and you want to get back to the modules, you can just go over here to the left-hand side, hit modules, and it will take you back. You could also use your back arrow button up here too. And then I also put in here the spring calendar. And this is the basically the academic calendar. If it pulls up here, for some reason, it's giving me a little bit of a fit. This tells you when the add drop deadline is, when the semester ends, what holidays there are, when is spring break. I also put that into the syllabus as well, but I still post this because sometimes students, this is easy. You can pull it up, you can look at it. So I try to put it in a couple of different places so that you guys are aware. So for example, February 11th, which is not this Friday, but the following Friday, is your refund deadline. It's the add drop deadline. So if you decide, oh no, there's no way I can deal with Richard for an entire semester, I got to drop, make sure you do it by the 11th. Okay. Otherwise, after that, you get a W. Now, if you get one W in your academic career, it's probably not a big deal. But if you're collecting a series of W's, um, that could cause you trouble with getting financial aid, or might get put on academic probation or whatever. I don't know everything they do with it, but they look at that, they frown on a bunch of W's. So just be aware of that. And the other thing is, when it comes to the withdrawal deadline, if you miss that deadline, I have to give you a grade. So if you're in class and you're struggling, um, and I've had this happen several times where a student will miss a major assignment, and then they'll come to me with what seems to be a very valid, legitimate excuse, and I give them a little bit of grace and say, okay, you can turn this paper in late, I'll give you so many points for it, and then they don't do that, or they fall so far behind, and we try to create a plan where they can catch up, and then they just don't. And I will often talk to students about withdrawing, because it's better to have a W than it is to have an F. So just kind of like be mindful of that. I don't like giving students an F. Well, actually, I don't give students an F. I don't like reporting Fs. I'll put it that way, right? So if you're no longer attending class and you miss the withdrawal deadline, you go, oh, it was my intent to withdraw, and you miss it, I'm stuck. At the end of the semester, I have to give the grade that's there. And so I just kind of, normally I will send out like a friendly reminder. Please don't take it as Richard wants me to drop class. That's not why I'm doing that. I just try to do a friendly reminder, although I don't always. So I don't make that promise, because it's really the student's responsibility to keep up with the add drop deadline and the withdrawal deadline. So I hope that makes sense. But that's why I put this calendar in there. And any questions? Remember, we are being recorded, so if you do not want your voice on YouTube, you can put it in the chat. If you don't care, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. But I'm going to stop here and see if there are any questions on what we talked about so far. All right, so not seeing any. You can also recollapse, like let's say I open this up like I did, this arrow. If you click on it, it will collapse it as well. So then there's the Zoom link. So you can come right in here and click this link, and it will take you right to Zoom. So you can log into class if you're logged into Canvas. So everybody got here tonight. So Zoom is looking good for you guys. All right, so the next module is getting started. This just is a page about me. It has a picture of me when I looked better. And oh, I got to fix my office hours. Oh no, that's correct. Yeah, so that's correct. And it just gives a little bit of information about me. And then also, there is a helpful page on getting started with Canvas. If you need a refresher or new to it, you can check that out. And actually, this is the only link that I put in there, but when you go here, you'll find all kinds of other helpful links. So it's just a way for me to get you some Canvas help if you need it. All right, so I'm going to close that. So then the next set, the next 4 modules are all about the major assignments we're doing this semester. So resource notebook is the first module. You can see that there's a lot in here, and I'm going to talk about this next week. But basically earlier, like I said, you guys are going to be each selecting a program that you want to do research on, that you want to present to the class, and that you will also create a resource notebook form, and submit it so that I can distribute it to all students so that they can put it in their resource notebook. And so here's your resource notebook instructions. You will see that I really, oh, for some reason my click is not working. I really took some time and delineated this step-by-step instructions on what to do. So if you're already, some people have already turned in their homework for this week. Kudos, and I can't remember who it was, but 3 people have already done their surveys and 1 person's already done their chapter 1 activities. So if you want to move ahead, you can read these instructions, anybody can, and start on this process. I encourage people to start this process right away. And I'm hoping that my instructions are detailed, but if there's anything that that sounds confusing, let me know, because maybe I can reword something and it will make it easier for other students. So let me know if you have any problems with that. I'm always open to feedback on my instructions. So there's your resource notebook instructions, pretty detailed. And those instructions are going to point to different areas that are here that you will see. Here's your program brochures. These are produced by the county. This is how you're going to choose which programs you want to look at. Here is student presentation dates. Now, right now, you'll notice that they are empty because no one has been assigned a date yet. But as students are assigned presentation dates, I will have this updated. Actually, your other assignment is by next week to choose program choices, but I will talk about that next Tuesday evening. Or you can read ahead in the instructions and get started. Because I will say this, each student's going to research 1 program, but I'm going to ask you to give me 4 choices. And the reason why is because first come, first serve. So if 2 people want to, for instance, research the Freedom Ranch, the person that gets me that choice first is the one that's going to get that. So then the second person that comes in and their first choice was Freedom Ranch and their second choice was Crash short term, then they're going to get assigned Crash short term. So please put in order your preferences. This is my first choice. This is my second choice. This is my third choice. And this is, if I really have to do this, Richard, this is my last choice. Most people actually get their first or second choice. So the process goes pretty rapid. There's not that many people in class. My classes have been about 25 students. So there's way more than 25 programs. So most people get their first choice. So again, all of that's in the instructions, but anything that's in here will be available to you. You're also going to have to put together a PowerPoint presentation. And I also give some helpful links on if you've never done a PowerPoint, here's some helpful videos that I put in. I've had some very positive reactions from students in the past saying, oh, that was really, really helpful. So I've continued that practice. This video is a video of a lecture on the resource notebook sample presentation that I do. And this is basically what I'm going to kind of be looking for you guys. So it's basically me doing a presentation, modeling what I'm looking for from you guys. So it's also a very helpful link, so you can watch that. It's about, your presentation should be no more than 10 minutes long. This video is about 12 or 13 minutes long because I'm doing some explaining in the beginning, but the actual presentation for the resource itself is only about 10 minutes long, which is what I'm looking for from you guys. So that's the resource notebook module. When you guys upload your forms to me for grading, I'm going to upload them here. And this is what you guys are going to print and put into your notebooks. So each week there'll be roughly 3 new forms added to this each week, each time there's a presentation. And so whenever there's a presentation, you guys at your leisure, just go in, print what was presented and add it to your resource notebook. And so you're going to build your resource notebook the entire time you're in class this semester. So each week, that's where you will find that. This next one is on Burp Note documentation, and it's also on your assignments. So you'll see here, this is what I'm going to want you to print to bring to class. So next week, I will want you to have available the Burp Note checklist, the Burp Note basic structure, and documentation formats. And I'll give you an example. I'll show you the documentation formats. And let me do this. Remember earlier when somebody asked me what was a burp note, and I kind of explained that. And I also talked about that there are different types of notes. You know, early in my career, I actually learned the SOAP format. And so this is what SOAP basically looks like. This is what Burp looks like. This is what I'm going to be teaching you this semester. This is what DAP looks like. These are the 3 major formats that I have observed being used in most programs. Now realizing that my might be a little bit limited. There could be something being used out there at another program that I'm unaware of. But for the most part, this is what I hear people are using. They're either using DAP, SOAP, or Burp, or they're using the county prompts, which I'm going to talk about when I actually teach on the Burp Note starting next week. But the reason why I have this is so that you guys have something to compare. So what's the difference between these? And you'll notice that mainly the difference is placement of information or how it's placed. The information you'll see is it's pretty much, they're all asking for the same basic stuff, which is kind of like what I was telling you before. So, so that's why I created this document, so that you guys can kind of see that once you learn Burp, if you know Burp, you'll be able to translate it to SOAP. If you learn SOAP, you'll be able to translate it to DAP or Burp, right? So, so that's what that's about. I just kind of want to show you that. The reason why I recommend that you print and bring these things to class is because you might be wanting to take some notes on that, along with I also put the PowerPoint, make it available for you as well, so that you can print out the PowerPoint for next week, so you can take notes on that as well. So this is what you're going to print and bring to class. This is going to be the in-class activity that we're going to be doing. And so I'm going to show you guys a video, and then I'm going to break you guys into groups, and I'm going to have you pull out some pieces of information the best way that you can to write a rudimentary Burp note. So this is going to be your beginning practice. Now, because we're going to be on Zoom next week, I'm going to do it in the form of breakout rooms. So you guys will get into breakout rooms, and then we'll go from there. And then these are going to be your Burp Note assignments. So I'm going to just go ahead and open up one. Now you'll notice that I put in here, be sure to carefully read all instructions from beginning to end. I remember me as a student, I would kind of skim through the instructions and then, yeah, whatever, professor, let me get to the work. And then I would start to do the work. Sometimes I would miss things, or I would do something incorrectly that was specifically addressed in the instructions, and I'd lose points. So that's why I'm kind of like highlighting that. So you're going to watch this video of these 2 individuals. And this is Dr. Curtis, and this is Fabian. Fabian is going to be your client, And you, I want you to pretend as though you are Dr. Curtis. So I want you to put yourself in Dr. Curtis's place when you're writing these notes. And you're going to use your credentials. So if you are registered and you're actually sitting in class right now as an RADT, I want you to use RADT and your last name. If you do not have credentials, then I just want you to go AODS. Those are your credentials, right? Alcohol and other drug student, and your last name. So, so I'm going to be very specific on this because I'm going to teach you a particular way to write notes. And I'm going to teach you to do it in a third person point of view. And I'm really going to drive that home. So make sure you read these instructions very carefully so that you're getting your first burp note correct. Okay. So that's what your assignments are going to be. And you're actually going to have to create a separate document and upload it. And again, those will be in the instructions as well. So returning back to the burp note module. So this is where you will go and you will find all of your assignments. Remember earlier, I talked to you guys about stigmatizing language and the A dictionary link. It is right here. And I really encourage you guys to really check this out. This is published by the the Recovery Research Institute. And their goal is basically having us as clinicians, and by the way, you are embarking on a career as a clinician, having us using unified language, very important, and using language that is as destigmatizing as possible. So I'll give you an example here. So like the word abstinence, right? That's a term that I use a lot. I say abstinence date as opposed to clean date or sober date. So you'll hear me refer to it as abstinence date, abstinence time, things like that. Here's another word, abuser. Like when we call somebody an abuser, you'll see right here it says stigma alert. We do not want to use this term. Anytime you see the term, stigma alert, that should cue you into, I probably shouldn't be using that word. Let me get another one. Addict. Calling our clients addicts. That's a stigma alert. It's a little bit longer to say, but you always want to use person first language. Anybody here ever hear of person first language?
Yes.
Nice. So for those that haven't heard of person first language, that is when you're describing a client. We have to describe our clients. There's no doubt about it, right? But instead of saying, yeah, my client is an addict, right? Or a crystal meth addict or a heroin addict. Person first means you put them first and then you use destigmatizing language afterwards. So I'm working with a person or an individual who experiences symptoms of severe substance use, right? Less stigmatizing. Is it a little longer to say? Yes. Yes, it is. Sorry. And I know we get into the habit. I do it. 12 years in, every once in a while, these words will slip out because it's shortcuts, it's shorthand. But we really need to be careful with that, especially if we're talking to a client or around other clients that can hear us. So you want to try to see if there was any other. Anyway, you'll see, and you can go through this whole thing. Let's see. Clean, stigma alert. So saying the word clean in a clinical reference is, in a clinical environment, just realize some of your clients could be stigmatized by that. Codependency. Ooh, this is a word that gets thrown around a lot in treatment. Understand that this is also one of those stigma alert words. Means that it may be appropriate to say, but I would really try to find another way of saying it. Oh yeah, that person's a codependent. All right, let's see here. Okay, Sorry, I was just responding real quick to a text. So anyway, this is a really, really cool resource. I really, really like it. So that's why I put it in there. That way, when you're doing your burp notes, if you have a question, should I use this word? You can look it up real quick. So, all right. Let me hold on one second. I gotta move something around here so I can get back. Okay, there we go. So that's that link. I'm going to close Burp Notes and open up writing assignments. So I kind of talked about the golden thread writing assignments before. I will do a little bit more talking about this next week, but I'm going to show you a PowerPoint that will have this kind of like demonstrated out. But again, like I said, I've already made a change. Because you will see that the first submitted paper is actually the TTM paper, but scratch that. It's going to be a paper on your initial ASAM assessment. And we're going to practice that in class. We're going to practice it, then you're going to interview someone, and then you're going to write a paper on it. And then you're going to write a diagnostic summary. But before you do that, we're going to practice in class doing a diagnostic interview. So you'll get that practice, and then you'll write that paper. Then you're going to submit a treatment plan, and we're going to practice using the ASAM level of care again to make sure we're addressing all areas that are important to address in treatment. And again, we're going to practice that. So I know this looks like a lot, but you and we're going to work together and work through this, and you're going to come out the other end going, wow, that was hard, but I did it. So we'll talk more about that next week. And then the instructions that you saw for the resource notebook, you saw how detailed I did on step 1, step 2, what to do when. That is my plan for the paper change. But as you can see, it is still under construction. So I'm going to work on that this weekend. It'll be published by next weekend, or hopefully before then. That's my real goal. But if not, I'm giving myself 2 weekends to get it done, because the third week when we come back to class is when we're going to actually practice this. So you'll still have time. But I just kind of wanted to show you that it's still under construction, but that is coming. And it will detail how to submit the assignment. And then the diagnostic summary instructions and stuff, all of that is there. Like here's a DSM5 graded paper example. So in case you want to see what I might be looking for. So this is a student's paper. Of course, his name was deleted and stuff like that. And I asked him permission to use it. But this was his paper on his client's diagnosis, right? And then you can see my notes if you want to see what I was commenting on, right? So for example, this is an example of an individual that did not follow the instructions. And so the very last note is, the paper is incomplete. I'll give you an opportunity to resubmit, because they missed the whole third section of the paper, right? But I really liked his examples for his diagnosis. And so that's why I include this. So it's a good paper to show what happens when you miss part of the instructions. And it's also a good paper to show when a person was doing a really good job with their diagnosis. He did a really good job with his diagnosis. So that is available for you to kind of look at on your own time as well. And as we get closer, and then I'm going to create a treatment plan example as well. So you'll have that. So those are the major writing assignments, and it's called the Golden Thread Concept Papers, because you're going to be writing on the same person. It's going to be your same client throughout the entire semester. And we'll break that down when we get to it. Okay, so this week we're on week 1. Here's my recorded lecture for Intro to TAP 21. That's in case we run out of time tonight. You'll have it to review. There's also the videos that I will be either showing tonight. Well, no, I don't show all of these, but some really good videos there. Also the PowerPoint. Here's the chapter 1. Remember earlier somebody asked me about chapter 1. It is located right here. So you can, if you don't have your book yet, you can begin reading chapter 1. And like I said, it's a short chapter. It's only about 10 pages. And when you get to the end, you'll see why. Because she does a lot of references. She does a lot of resource stuff. So anyway, so you can read, you can begin reading chapter 1 right away. And you'll need to read chapter 1 to do your assignment this week. So that's present. And then your homework assignments are down. So most of the modules are going to be set up kind of the same way. This one's missing what to print, so I'll show that for this one. So week 2 is more typical of what most of your modules are going to look like. So here's chapter 14. So you have access to read chapter 14, but I only publish with you guys chapters 1 and 14 because that's all I'm allowed to do, because this is copywritten material, and so I can't disperse it. I can let you guys use a sample, but I can't disperse the whole book. So I choose 1 and 14 so you guys can get started. So that's there. This is the PowerPoint student version. So you can print that out if you wish. This is going to be what we're going to go over next week. So this will also tell you videos for that will be the focus of this week. This is an actual video of the lecture I'm going to do next week, in case somebody has to miss or they're sick and can't come, then at least it's there. The other videos are for you on your own time, but I will talk about them more next week. And then what you need to print to bring to class. Remember your Burp note checklist, your formats. I'm going to want you to print out a treatment progress note form, because I'm going to talk a little bit about that next week and the week after, and also a group progress note form. So print that out so you have blank copies available to you when I'm talking about it. And then the in-class activity we're going to do is a Burp note practice, and it tells you where to go to see that. And then your assignments for next week: bring your 3-ring notebook binder and submit your program choice requirements, your requirements next week. So the rest of it goes basically the same way. You know, I have the I have them set up. There will be updates to later weeks because there's still some stuff I'm deciding on what I'm going to include for activities and not. So let me see. There's, like, for instance, here it says print and bring to class. Right now, nothing, but that may change. So each week when you're preparing for the class, make sure you go in and check the module in case I've added something. Usually it's added 2 or 3 weeks out, so there's no real short notice. So just go in and check the week before so that you know what you need to print and bring to class, what activities we might be working on, and then the assignments will also be posted. So assignment week for week 13 is your diagnostic summary. That's oops, I mean week 10. Not week 13, that's a typo. So we'll tell you what assignments are going to be due. So like homework 3 is due week 11. All right. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? That's the basic layout for the Canvas. Remember, you can hit collapse all too and collapse everything.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So do we need to just go to the modules to find out what's due every week, or should we hit the assignment button? I just want to make sure I don't get behind. It seems like there's a lot of stuff here.
You can do either. So the assignment button will let you know, because all of them are linked, right? So the assignment button, if we go here and let's just look at the assignment, and it says submit program choices for that. It says February 11th, right? If you go back to where we were in the week 2 module, it will tell you that too. But here you don't submit it here. I just put in a little text to say, hey, remember you have this due.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. So I put it in a couple of different places. And then remember, if you go back to where it says syllabus on the left-hand side, and you go all the way to the bottom, it's also going to give you all those links.
Okay.
And
Uh-oh.
last but not least is your calendar.
Okay.
So there's more than one way to skin a cat here, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
I actually had a two-part question
Sure.
also. So you were mentioning something about 3 papers that they're all going to be on the same person. Are you going to assign that person, or is it the person from the video that you just mentioned?
no, it's going to be a person that you choose, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail, but I will give you a heads up.
Okay.
For those that might want to be thinking about this week.
Yeah. Get ahead of the game.
The best way to do this work that we're about to embark in is to actually interview real people.
Okay.
So if you have lived experience and are in recovery and go and attend AA or NA meetings, maybe you can get one of your friends to sit down for the clinical interview, right? And be able to do your ASAM assessment, and then later on do your TCU, which is the diagnostic questionnaire I'm going to teach you guys. And and then you'll create a treatment plan. It's much better if you're actually sitting down with a real person. If you work in the field, please do not, and I'm going to emphasize this again, do not use one of your clients. That would be unethical. There could be some boundary violations there. Do not use a real client that you are working with. Use a volunteer, family member, a recovery member, another student in this classroom if you don't know anybody, right? You can interview another student, and hopefully other students in here would be willing to do that. And to get that clinical experience. My plan is, if everything works out, the first night we actually start talking about the ASAM individual level of care, I'm actually going to bring in a person who will sit for a clinical interview, and I will conduct the clinical interview in class in front of you guys with this individual. So you'll kind of see it in action, and then your assignment will be later on in that class is we're going to break up into groups, and you're going to start the process of doing clinical interviewing. But ideally, after that, you have someone that you want to interview that you can write your summary about.
Okay, so you're going to walk us through it first, and then we're going to pick somebody and do it on our own, right?
Exactly. But,
okay, cool.
But you can pick somebody now and maybe reach out to them and talk to them, because somebody may turn you down. No, I really don't want to do that. Right. So, just be thinking about who you might want to interview that you have access to that's not a client.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you.
Sure.
I have a question also.
Yes.
Assignments.
Yes.
they're gonna be due on Fridays?
Yes, because if I have to grade them, I need them so I can grade on Saturday. I used to make them due on Saturday nights, and then it jammed me up. So,
So let's say Tuesday is our class.
correct.
So we have 2 days, or actually like 2.5 days to complete the assignment. And
You have 1, 2, 3 full days this
Okay.
week to complete the assignment.
uh-huh,
These are easier assignments.
yes.
All of the other assignments are already open, so you already know what you got,
Mhm.
right? So this assignment you could submit now. You can be looking
Okay.
at this already, right? So, but there are some times where some assignments you do only have a short period of time. Like some of the burp notes, you only have about a week to get them done. So yes, that is correct.
Okay. Another question, the binder, 1.5, 3 inches.
I would say 1.5 to 2 at most. That's all you're going to need for right now.
And then I also saw the handout you show us with 3 different dates. Are we doing presentations in classroom?
Yes.
Okay.
So you are only going to do one presentation on one treatment facility. Each person's going to do a presentation on a different treatment facility. And that is also in the instructions as well, for in case you want to review it later after this, in the resource notebook. Sorry, module. Lost my words.
Thank you.
Sure thing. Mike,
Okay, and
Mike, I see your. Hold on one second.
Go
Mike,
ahead,
I
yeah,
see
let
your
Mike.
hand.
Yes, I guess the one question that I had was, I mean, I'm currently working as a kind of an intern position, and I'm getting some, supervision for my behavior notes,
Okay.
specific burp, and there was a lot more content in the criteria of your note. I guess I was asking like for like I like clarification. I don't want to like step on people's toes like on how it's done at my facility.
Right. And I will.
That's the kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to do it your way, obviously, but I don't want to,
Yeah.
bring
Eh,
what I know at work to the class and what I kind of differentiate in class to work.
Yeah. And I'm actually going to talk about that in a little bit more detail next week. I don't want you to do that either. And also realize that some of the stuff that I'm putting in my notes, and on that burp note checklist you're going to look, may not always apply to every single note. See what I'm saying? So things can be very situation specific, right? There are certain things that I always capture, but some notes might be longer than others, and I'm going to talk about that controversy next week too. There's everywhere you go, someone is going to have an opinion about how long a note should be, how short a note should be. I'm this is my opinion, and I'm just going to express it. As long as I am capturing clinically relevant information, right, in the most precise and concise way I can, then my note is the perfect length, regardless of someone else's opinion, right?
Right. Okay. Thank you.
So, but you're going to always run into that. And you ask 2 different clinicians, 10 different clinicians, you're going to get 10 different opinions, right? So I'll talk about that a little bit more in detail. The other thing I do want to say is, I'll give you an example. I'm going to teach you to use the client's first name in the written narrative. And I can already see some reactions to that. And I'll give you an example. There's a myth that says you can't write a person's name in the note. Yes, you can. There's nothing that says that you cannot do that. And the myth is, well, it violates confidentiality. No, it doesn't, Because what's at the top of every single note? Their full name. So if Richard Lynn Grandstaff II is listed across the top of the note, why can't I say Richard stated in the narrative? Richard reacted in the narrative. Why can't I say that? There's no reason for it. Here's the reason for it. Old school thinking, and that's how people were brought up, and we use what we learn, right? And so what I'm trying to do is show that I like to push up against myths, and that's one myth, that you don't violate someone's confidentiality. And your note can be better and easier to read. Another thing that I teach is never use I statements, first person language. We don't say I, we, us, but people are taught to write this writer. That's first person. You might as well just say I. This writer wrote this note. You might as well just say I wrote this note. No. APCC Grandstaff conducted an individual session with John. During the session, Johnny's narrative focused on his recent relapse. Johnny stated, I didn't see it coming. And the next thing I knew, I was using, right? That's how I write my notes. That's how I teach students to write notes. And I will also tell you that the way I'm teaching is based on documentation training from the County of San Diego. The county auditors love to see individualization of notes. And one way to prove that is using the client's preferred first name or nickname. It's okay to do that. Now, you don't include other people's names, right? So, and we'll talk about that more in detail next week, right? And we'll have plenty of time to observe lots of different examples through the semester. All right, Mario, question.
Yeah, I got another question. So we're gonna choose, or we're gonna pick 4 different, facilities to do research on. Are we actually gonna do research on every facility, or just the one that we get chosen for?
Only the one you are assigned. So you only have to do one. So
Cool. Good to know.
all right,
Good to know.
let me ask you this, because it seems like the questions are actually leaving the topic of Canvas itself. So does anybody have any Canvas questions or module questions on, or navigating around Canvas, that before I stop the recording? And
I think I just have a question as to like the homework assignments, because I was looking at it on my side, so it's like modeled like a quiz, but
yes,
there's no time limit. Are you able to close out of it and come back to it later?
yes.
Okay.
On homeworks, you can close and come back to it later. On exams, you cannot. And on homework, you can go back to it. You can skip a question, go back to it. On exams, you cannot. So yeah, so exams are strict, homework is loose.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and end the recording, because it seems like there are no other questions on Canvas navigation. And then I will post this for viewing later on.